Good morning, students. How are you doing? I hope all of you are doing well. My name is Amaldev PJ, and I'm a faculty of English at Vimla College, Thrissur. And I welcome you all to the first year PG class. Today, I have been assigned the topic literary criticism and theory. So, to all the other viewers of my videos, I'd like to say that this is going to be an ice-breaking session for beginners of literary theory and criticism rather than an elaborate session. So, let's delve into it initially. So, I would like to begin by telling you my own story and my own experiences with literary studies, literary criticism, and theory. I'm a huge fan of literary criticism and theory. The thing is, when I was doing my UG, there were a lot of questions in my head about literary studies, about the purpose of literary studies. And it is when I went for my post graduation, just like you guys are doing now, when these doubts actually intensified to an extent that I could not even continue pursuing my studies because every time I took up something to read, all these questions used to bug my mind, making it impossible to concentrate. The central questions were, why actually should we study literature? And what actually is the kind of contribution that students and teachers and of literature and the critics of literature are doing to the society? So I kept on pursuing this question so that I could have some mental closure, I could have some peace of mind, so that finally I could concentrate on my studies. So what I did was I kept asking around for answers to my seniors, to my teachers. What do you think is the central purpose of literary studies? What do you think? Why do you think we criticize literary texts and we use theory to analyze texts? Why do you think we do that? And what actually is the product of all that? When an engineer builds something or a scientist invents something, the product is very visible and its use value is also very visible. So again, I was thinking from the perspective of use value. But later on, with all my questions to my colleagues, my friends, and my teachers, and reading, a lot of reading I did on the topic, I came to my own conclusions. I understood that the world does not run by bread alone. The world does not run by technology alone, or the world does not run by material progress alone. If we do not have certain kind of values, and if we do not deeply think about at least certain human conditions and certain human emotions, we cannot progress emotionally. We cannot progress as a civilization. The culture of the society will decay and go into chaos. If the society is functioning as a positive force today, literature, literary studies, and literary criticism, all these disciplines have a very significant role in it. I'll explain how. Now, imagine that what do you think is probably one of the best ways of bettering a society? Now, around you, you might see a lot of problems happening around, and there are a lot of conflicts happening around between people, between countries, between communities, between religions. I believe that a solution, a significant solution to many of these problems is actually trying to understand the lives of others. That is, if there is a conflict of opinion between me and another person, between one community and another community, the best way of resolving that conflict is to think from the other person's perspective, is to understand that that person's right may not be my right, and my rights need not be that person's right. That is, values and ideologies vary. So with these notions in your head, you learn to put yourself in the shoes of others. You learn to ask questions like, why would another person believe that? What could be the reason why another community believes in those principles and not mine? And then we will learn to accommodate those differences. We will understand that they have their own rationale for believing that. They have their own ideas about certain things. For example, the cultures vary diversely in different parts of the world. Something that is very normal and very ordinary in the everyday life of one community can be very shocking to another community. Certain things that happen in another country on an everyday scale, which is very normal to them, might seem very surprising and shocking to us. That's because of the cultural differences and also the historical differences that are there. So when we are more mature and more broad-minded individuals, we learn to accept these differences. And I believe that in order to learn to appreciate these differences, to accommodate, to accept those differences, to embrace those differences, you need a bit of training. And that kind of training is mostly done through literature. We know that there are a lot of disciplines out there, the social sciences, the humanities, and the history is there, which actually tell you about the lives of other people. Journalism is there, which actually tell you about the lives of other people, how they live their lives, the facts about other people, information about other people. But most of the time, they are subjective sides. They are internal sides. That is how they felt about a certain kind of a decision. Why would they have felt it? And what cultural conditions would have made that person think in that way? All these questions are actually addressed by literary studies. So when we take up a literary work to learn, to read, what we are doing is actually exposing ourselves to a different perspective, to a different way of life and different way of thinking from our own. So which actually enriches us as individuals, enriches our perspectives about life, and we become more broad-minded and we become more accepting towards differences. Now, coming to the idea of literary criticism, one of my favorite teachers, Dr. Skaria Sakaria, one question that I asked sir in my class is that, sir, why do we have to criticize literature as such? We can just read and enjoy literature and probably take away some positivity from that. Beyond that, why do we have to hair split analyze certain works? Why do we have to use theory to analyze certain works? Why do we have to complicate it so much when it can be actually quite easy? And the answer that Sir gave is very significant. That is, if at all a discipline remains unquestioned and unexamined, it would become stagnant. It will not produce new knowledge, new perspective. When we take up a literary work, we analyze it, we criticize it, we are giving it new dimensions of meanings. And these new dimensions of meanings actually make us think that there is a different way of looking at things. There are different possibilities of looking at things. And this is a very significant practice for the betterment of human life on the planet. That there can be novel perspectives. A single thing or a single text or a single literary work, a poem, a novel, or a short story can be interpreted from a diverse range of perspectives. So it actually enriches that text we are analyzing. Now, a text might have one commonsensical meaning in everybody's minds, but when a critic approaches it from a diverse range of perspectives, that text is enriched with meanings, enriched with values, enriched with ideas. And we also understand that there is a fascinating possibility of meanings underlying each text. Now, literary criticism is an activity that critics have been involving in for many years, and it is due to literary criticism that literature itself has progressed so much. So much of meaning production, knowledge production has happened. Now, we take up a work of Shakespeare and we analyze and we understand the social conditions of those times. I'm coming to a very significant point now. Every literary work is a cultural artifact. Every literary work is not just a poem or a short story, but it's also a cultural artifact. That is, according to one of the most significant historians of English literature, William J. Long, behind every book is a man, and behind the man is the race, and behind the race is the natural, social, political, and what was it? I forgot. Natural, social, political, economic, I'm really sorry, economic and economic conditions that shape us. What it means is that we are not isolated beings. When I write something, I am not writing as an isolated being. I'm a social being. All the social factors that are around me, that is my social conditions, my social class, my economic conditions around, all those political events that are happening around, this, how the society is structured around, all that influences my writing. So my writing does not just talk about my own life, but rather about the life of the society around me. So this is a very significant cultural artifact. So whenever we take up a literary work of a different age or a different historical period, you need to understand that this is not just some story that we are reading, but also a glimpse into the culture and the politics and the society of those times. So when we look at it this way, we become better literary critics. We enrich the text with more meanings, and we take away more meaning from the text, and we understand the evolution of ideas, and we understand that ideas have actually influenced humankind so much, and the analysis, an in-depth analysis, can further enrich human experience. Now, coming into the most significant term that we need to discuss today, literary theory. probably one of the most scariest things to most of the students I have observed in my literary studies classes. Literary theory, most of the people view it as tools to analyze literature. That is, just like you use a scale to measure things, literary theory is often used as tools to explain certain literary works or certain cultural phenomenon. Now, when I use the word text, don't think that it's only written text. Okay, anything can be a text. The text is anything that we can analyze can be a text. That is, imagine that I'm looking at a cultural phenomenon, weddings in Kerala, or the wedding rituals in Kerala. These are cultural phenomenon. If I look at it, if I analyze it, that's also a text to me. Now, if I'm analyzing the fashion trends that are happening around in the world now, that's also a text. I can analyze it from diverse range of perspectives. That's also a text. So there are literary and cultural texts. So literary theory is often seen as a tool to analyze texts, but it's not just that. The thing is, it's a way of enriching the meaning of that text. According to the kind of experiences and exposure that I have had with literary theory, what literary theory does is that finds a rationale of certain works or texts, finds the rationale of why could this have happened, how are these ideas associated. The literary theory actually helps you look at a certain kind of question in a literary or cultural text in a particular manner. I'll explain how. Now, you must have heard the theory of Marxism. The theory of Marxism says that all cultural phenomena are based on the economy. So, for example, when you read a literary work, a Marxist theorist, what will he do? He will say that the relationship between one character and the other character, this person belongs to a superior class, social class, and this person belongs to a lower economic class, and the dynamics between those characters are actually determined by the economic orientation of those characters. So we are actually looking at that story from a Marxist perspective, from a Marxist theoretical perspective. If we look at the same story from a feminist perspective, if we use feminist theories to understand that story, we may see that the dynamics between those persons are actually a result of their gender also. And if we look at it from probably a post-colonialist perspective, we might understand that those people are probably natives of some colonial land, which was a colonial land earlier, and their behavior is actually determined by their colonial experiences. So similarly, every literary theory is in a way a looking glass to enrich the meaning of the text rather than to limit the text. Most of the time, what I see is that people take up a literary theory and say that according to this literary theory, this text can be interpreted this way, so this is the meaning of the text. No, never. One literary theory offers just one reading of the text. It's a tool, or it's a set of perspectives that help you analyze a literary text and reach at one perspective. If you look at it from another theoretical perspective, you might have an entirely different reading of that text. So don't think of literary theory as a unidirectional or limiting kind of tool, but rather it's a tool to open up the possibilities of meanings. One example that I give is that you get these colored films, right? Yellow, blue, green, these colored films. So what happens is that when you look at something from a green tinted colored film, everything looks green to you. Similarly, when you look at something from one theoretical perspective, one kind of meaning would be produced, one kind of interpretation would be produced. But if you look at the same text from another theoretical perspective, another kind of meaning can be produced. So there are diverse ranges of literary perspectives and thousands of possible interpretations, unlimited. There are many significant theoretical concepts. Structuralism is there, post-structuralism is there, Marxism, feminism, queer theory. There are many schools of literary theory which you will learn, and theory will help you understand the text better. That is, interpret the text better, so that there are more meanings and more ideas and more interpretations, and this will enrich our experience as students. And don't think that one theoretical explanation need be right all the time, because it's a theory. There is a subtle difference between scientific theories and the theories in humanities. Human behavior cannot be as easily generalized as the sciences. It varies, it subtly varies according to the cultural context, the economic positioning, the class, and many such factors. So when we say that a theory is helping you understand a text, don't think that this is going to be a universal interpretation which is unquestionable. A theory is just one perspective. The way in which the text is understood can actually vary a lot. Okay, I hope this makes up a very brief or a very brief discussion, a quick discussion into literary theory. Now, throughout the semester, what we'll do is we will be reading a lot of literary texts, and we will be looking at it from a diverse range of perspectives, and we will be relying on many theories also, so that we can produce better meanings, better cause and effect, and better rationale in those texts. So I hope the idea about theory is clear to you. So what I would like you to do is, you have the internet now. What are the major theoretical concepts that are out there? Marxism, feminism, and what are the core of ideas in those theories? And how can I use that in some text that I see? Now, you can actually connect literary theory and critical theory to your everyday life. That is, I explained about Marxism, right? You can actually analyze your everyday life with the Marxist theory. I said that most of the cultural experiences are results of economic relations. So look at the way in which you and another person is related. For example, I give the example of bus conductors. That is, when you actually come to college in a regular bus, what happens is that if you are giving the full amount, that is the full charge for the ticket, the behavior of the conductor towards would you be very different. But if the students are actually paying the concession amount, that is, which is very less from the original fare, the attitude of the conductor is quite different. They might be rude and rash, and they might treat them badly. So what happens here is the relationship between the conductor and the student is actually determined on the basis of economy, the economic capability of the student to afford a full charge or a concession bus charge. So again, see, Marxism is working there. Economic based structure is determining the relationship between two individuals there. Again, you can look at your life from a feminist perspective also. Now, there are certain things that are restricted to women in a society, especially in conservative societies. You cannot do this, you should not say this, or you should not walk this way, talk this way. So why do we have to stick on to those kinds of notions? Or what is the rationale behind those kinds of notions? Feminist theory looks at all that. So similarly, all theoretical concepts will also not just help you read literary works, but also analyze your personal and your social life better. They say that the personal is political. So these are the basic ideas about theory. I hope I have not confused you too much. I hope all the ideas that I shared are clear, and we are going to have a really good time learning all these subjects. I'm a huge fan of literary studies, literary theory, and I'm very passionate about the subject because it connects to your life, and it can actually be a solution to many of the problems that are in the society. It can actually teach you to accept and appreciate and embrace differences and people. So this is a very significant subject to for you to be learning now. So be proud that you're a student of literature. Thank you, and I'll be seeing you in the coming classes. And stay safe, take all the precautionary measures, and we hope that the college starts very soon. Till then, we'll be seeing you online. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your patience. Stay happy, stay blessed. Thank you.